Yay, hey Rishabh, morning.
I was trying to connect my HD camera. That's what I was doing. But for some reason, yeah, it always stops working at the right time.
No
But are
worries,
you
happy to have you here.
close to my video though? Otherwise, it's good.
Yes, yes, we can see you and hear you loud and clear. So people
Perfect.
are still joining in, but thank you so much for coming online for us on a weekend morning. So very happy to
I
have you
love
here
it.
and
This is how I like to enjoy my weekend mornings.
yeah, talking to an excited community of people who are joining us as well, right? So, folks, I'll give you a
Thanks.
quick introduction to Rishabh and then sort of leave the stage over to you. Um, so, Rishabh is the founder of Mappling, a performance marketing agency, and he's been doing a fabulous job of it since 2009. Um, he makes a lot of money, which is great. But what I really like about the way he approaches business is that he's found that work life balance, which is not to run after the money all the time, but to make sure that he's using it to enjoy life right now and spending time with family, friends, and doing things that he loves, which I think is really, really important for any entrepreneur or business owner, people who are wanting to get into freelancing. And so we thought, it'd be amazing to get a glimpse of that side um, of entrepreneurship to you guys as well. And Rishabh is here to tell you how to build a booming business while making sure that you don't compromise on the quality of your life. So thank you so much, Rishabh, and over to you.
Thanks a lot, Supriya. That was like, I feel like a superstar now after that intro. So I think one of the things that so am I audible to everyone? Shreya message something. Is that okay? That's okay. If I'm audible, everyone can hear me. Just put a one on the chat or a yes. Okay, perfect. So luckily my microphone is working, though my HD cam is not. That's cool. Audio is always more important if you're making content. So basically, one word that I can use to sort of define myself, and I would be labeling myself as an essentialist. Because what I try to do is I try to find what are the key things, what are the most essential things to focus on, whether it's in health, in relationships, in business career, whatever it is. What are the most important things? And then I just go all in on that and try to build SOPs around it, because eventually you get successful just by repeated behavior. So you just keep repeating certain things, and those can be habits in your day-to-day life, they can be SOPs in business, they can be regular calls with your family and friends. These are the things that make up life, right? So that's like a summary. If someone asked me to define in one word, what's my essence, what's the essence of my life, it's essentialism. And look at this term a little bit more, because it's basically about getting the signal from the noise, and there's just a lot of noise around us right now that we need to get the signal out. And the best way to do that is to identify the top things that matter. And essentialism is basically an application of the 80-20 rule, and you can apply it in any part of your life. So there's a lot of things I've been doing in my journey. I love to make these sessions tailored to what people want to know. While I am sharing my story, just feel free to, put your questions and what you guys are doing, so I can then, give you a tailored advice to what you do. But in my journey, some of the things that I found was that actually very few things matter in life. So most of the things that we are exposed to do not really matter, right? So for me, there's only three. For me, it's my health, it's the wealth, and my family. And those are like the three things that matter really to me. And I realized that within those three things, there's only a few things that you do that lead to the most results, right? So let me give you an example from my fitness journey, right? So there's only three things that I realized that I do that lead to the most best results. And one of them was to just prioritize my protein intake when it comes to nutrition. The second one was to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And the third one was just to do some exercise every day. That's all. I mean, there was so many other things that people were telling me. There were so many diets that people were telling me. But then these were the three things that I used to get back on track. Even with business, I realized there's only like three things that mattered to me. One was to find new people to work with. The second was to add value to them. And the third one was to document that journey in terms of content. That's it. So while there was 100 things that I could have done, these were the three that I did for business. And this is how I just simplified like every area of my life and slowly got to those essential things that matter the most. Kiran, you have a question? I see you're raising your hand. You can put the
Sorry,
question
they
in the
may
chat.
not be. Yeah. If you're not able to unmute yourself, just put your question in the chat window.
Yeah, so this is just feel free to ask your questions at any time. You don't have to wait for me to stop speaking. This is a conversation. Yes, Kiran, I can see Kiran.
Hello.
Hey, hi, Kiran.
Hello, sir. How are you?
All good, man. How are you? Good to hear from you this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Sir,
So
I am completely new here. I don't know about content writing. What I am completely new here, sir. So I want to know what is actually content writing. How it is career in this field.
nice. So I think Supriya is the best person to answer that question. But yeah, maybe I can add some thoughts as well. Supriya, you want to go for it? I guess you're on mute.
Sorry. So maybe what we'll do, Kiran, is we'll take this question towards the end because there is a lot to say on this subject. What is content writing? How do we get started? So I don't want to break the flow for Rishabh to talk about business building first. So we will let him continue on that thought process, and I'll come back to content writing towards the end when we have time, right? Meanwhile, folks, do put your questions in Q&A box so then I can bring them out to Rishabh, right?
Cool, let's
Sorry,
do
go on,
that. So,
Rishabh. Yeah.
so the next thing that I would, there are a few points that I want to point out, but I just want to understand how many of you are already freelancing. Just type one in the chat box. If you're already a freelancer, if this is something that you're already doing, taking up clients as an agency as well, of course, I mean, freelance or agency. Great. And let's type two in the chat box if you haven't started yet, but you want to start freelancing and taking up clients. So in the starting phase, just starting out, let's get a 2 from that. Wow, I see a lot more 2s. So that's a good sign. A lot of people are going to start their journey. Cool. I would love to share my screen and show you how I got started as well. So there's some things that I've documented for you guys. In between, feel free to keep commenting with your questions. So this is a Miro board, and I will tell a small story for people who are just getting started. So one of my friends recently reached out to me and he said, I'm going to quit my job. I need some additional income. He's not the highest paid person. He's getting 50,000 rupees a month as salary. And the first thing I told him is, back to essentialism. There's only 25% of your time that you're actually using productively in your job. And this is data from jobs across. It's not just for content, but for any job. 25% of your time spent at your job is productive. So if you account for that, you could literally have 4 freelancing clients and be making 1 lakh a month instead of having a full-time job for 50,000 rupees, right? 2 lakhs a month. So what I told him is a simple story is, imagine that you have 100 people that you have on WhatsApp, and you would probably have much more. And there could be a few hundred people on your DMs on Instagram. Just start out without any targeting, without any marketing, without creating any user personas or audiences, and just reach out to them, right? Reach out to them and ask them whether they are interested in X, whatever you are offering. Maybe it's content writing, or if they know someone who are interested. And a lot of times what happens is a person who is not in your target audience knows someone who is in your target audience. But the highest response rate that you will get from anything that you do is going to be from your existing network. right? So a response rate from a cold outreach could be 5%, but a response rate from your existing network is close to 50%. So if 1 in 2 people are responding to you, at least someone is listening to you. And if you're just starting out, you don't need a client, you need feedback. First thing that you need is for someone to listen to you and give you feedback. Okay, you tap into your network, you reach out to your existing connections, you check if they're interested. These are very simple things, guys. I'm a simple person, so I'm only going to talk simple stuff here, but I can tell you that it works, right? Check interest. If they're interested, understand what they need and add value up front. So you start talking to them and showing how you can add value. If they're not interested, then you just ask them if they know someone who's interested. And just by doing this, he got his first 3 clients. And these people in his list, he's a video editor, just for reference. These people in his list were not even YouTubers. They were not even his target audience, but they always, all of them were interested in listening to him. And that's the first thing you need when you're getting started. In startup terminology, we call it validation testing, or, having sort of an MVP pitch that you use. But if you put it in simple terms, this is the flow chart, right? So
this is how I've got all my clients.
and Supriya, the best thing, even if you look around us, right? Like, we are part of a mastermind, we have all of these communities and all.
Yeah.
People talk about all of these fancy ways of running ads and doing cold outreach and stuff like that. If you ask them, how did most of your clients come? It's all from the network, right? Everything from the networking. And when I reflect about this, yes, I scaled my business using outreach. I scaled my business using performance marketing, but my core business was built by my network. So one more thing that I want to point out is, you might have heard this, your network is your net worth. But one thing that you need is to fill in the gap with a process, right? So your net worth has to be converted to your net worth. Your network is not going to become your net worth by itself. You have to have a process where you do an outreach, you get them on a call, you add value, and that's how you repeat that over time. So there's a little bit more detail here, but there's only 3 steps to freelancing as per me. And again, like I said, essentialist, 3 things matter: finding clients, adding value, and making money. Those are the only 3 things. And within those, I also have just 3 things. So to find clients, there's only 3 things you need to learn: networking, sales, and marketing. Networking, you are doing even if you don't know that you're doing it, right? So you already have built a network over your life. And this is the leverage that you can already tap into. Sales and marketing, you might need to start from scratch, but networking is something that you've already been doing, whether it's friends, family, people you've been following on social media, people you've messaged on social media, and so forth. So there's only 3 things that matter when it comes to finding clients. When it comes to adding value, I believe SOPs, project management, client communication are the only 3 skills that matter. Everything that you will get will be either a project or a process, right? So if you can communicate with the client and you can manage these 2, project and process, you are able to add value, right? And finally, it's making money. So we have 3 main components of freelancing. And like I said, essentialist mindset, we are splitting it into just 3 things. The first one is to find clients. The second one is to add value. And the third one is to make money. Now, before we deep dive into one of these, let's hear it from the group. Which of these do you guys want me to discuss first? Some people call this sales, delivery, and accounting, or whatever. Like, there's terms to do to all of these things, but I'm a simple person. So it's like finding clients, adding value, and making money. Which of these should we discuss first? If you can just put it in the chat, we'll take that up first. Yeah, I like the make money as well, but yeah, finding clients is the first step to making money. And a lot of you have mentioned finding clients. So we'll take that up. This is something that I am doing with my agency as well. Currently, we are doing $25,000 a month in revenue. And that's all from eventually, finding clients, adding value, and then upselling them. So I'm going to show you the exact process that I use. And it's an extension of the simple flowchart that I showed you before, which is just to start tapping into your network. But when you get serious about finding clients, you can add multiple streams to this, right? So the first one is to tap into your network. The second one is to start cold outreach. And For any freelancer or agency, this is going to be the most scalable way to find clients, right? And the third one is to create content. Now, let me tell you the difference between these three. Tapping into your network is the best for beginners if you're starting out and if you're looking at, leveraging what you've already built. When you're scaling, it's going to be best to do cold outreach because there's no upper limit to how many people you can do an outreach to. If you're looking at inbound leads, it's always going to be limited. But when you're looking at outbound leads, when you're looking at you reaching out to people, there's no limit to how many people you can reach. And finally, once you have authority on the, once you have mastery on the skill, once you've developed case studies, then you can build your authority. Then you can build a brand. And that's where you create content for yourself and build a personal brand. So those are the three different layers. And I recommend it based on what stage you are in. Eventually, you have the same. The second half of the flowchart is exactly the same. You check interest, you see if they're interested, you understand what they need, add value, and solve the problems. One thing I do want to mention is over time, you will be solving problems for bigger clients and you'll be solving the same problems, but getting paid a lot more, right? I think Supriya is an amazing example of this. Of course, she writes, amazing content, but let's say the same quality of content, if I was to write for a very small client, I would get paid, 10 times less than Supriya. So it's the same piece of content, but it's for a bigger business. So first thing is, of course, skill, which Supriya can help you all build. But once you are skilled, then you need to work with bigger businesses or bigger ticket size clients to then get paid much more for the same amount of time, effort, and skill that you spent. So that's where you will leverage your size of the client. But before that, it's all about building the skill, reaching out to your network. So
That's much less hassle. Like
yeah,
bigger clients always are easier to work with.
absolutely. Absolutely. They have that budget, they have that mindset that we need. And that's where cold outreach can then be tailored to those clients. So initially, you want volumes. You want to outreach to as many people as possible. And that's where the volume will lead into certain clients. But as you get good, as you have case studies, you're now maybe only doing outreach to people who have businesses, let's say, who have at least 10 employees, or you're maybe doing outreach to businesses who are making a few lakhs a month at minimum. So you can then add those filters and then cater the outreach to get the exact client persona that you want, right? So just like we have audience personas in marketing, you should also build your client personas eventually. Like for example, my agency works with e-commerce to
Okay, now we have lost you, Rishabh. You're not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So then once you build your client personas, you can then reach out to those specific people. So I was giving example from my agency, wherein we reach out to e-commerce brands who are on Shopify. So we have a technology filter as well, who are doing at least $50,000 a month in revenue. These are US based. So we have the geographical filter as well. We have the revenue filter. We have the technology filter. We have the industry filter, e-commerce D2C. And then we have an extra filter, which is for their target audience. So we work with brands whose target audience is female, based in the US. So there's like these different categories of filters, and we can then tailor our outreach to. Because we know that if we are reaching out to a client who's doing 50K a month, and if we can get them to 100K a month, they'll have no problem paying us $5,000 to $10,000 a month, right? And that's the kind of retainers that we charge. So because of that, we need to have these filters. And that's only possible when you have a system in place for the cold outreach. I'd be happy to share my system as well and the tools I use. If you want to know more about that, just say one in the comments and I'll share that with you in terms of the cold email outreach. Awesome. So in summary, what I do is I'm getting my leads from Apollo. Let me show it to you guys so you can see it here. Everything that I do is on Miro. It's just like the way I like to work, because even in real life, I love sticky notes. So this is like the closest I can get to my real world. Let's go for the funnel. So this is my agency funnel. We look for contacts. Like I said, there's a specific target audience that we are looking at. And we use Apollo and Built With and similar tools to find these leads. Once we get those leads, we verify those leads using a tool called Million Verifier. And this tool will verify and tell you if the email IDs are validated or not. Once we validated the leads, we put them on Instantly, which is the software I use for the email outreach. So there's going to be a lot of information. Just keep making notes, but eventually you can explore all of these tools. The tool is instantly.ai. If they are interested, we send them a custom Loom video. Now, this step may not be scalable for everyone, but since I'm working with brands doing more than 50K a month, I am happy to go for a custom Loom video. It's an extra effort for me because I'm not getting paid for it, but I know that someone doing this amount of revenue would appreciate a custom Loom video. You don't have to do this if you are, just starting out. You just want to optimize for volumes of meetings first. But I'm in a stage where I'm optimizing for quality of meetings because I don't want too many meetings on my calendar. And you can also follow this approach if you're looking at high ticket size. Then we have the discovery call. So I use a tool called cal.com, which is similar to Calendly to book the discovery call. It just removes all of the back and forth. Like I said, I'm an essentialist. I don't want to have long email chains with clients. So I just keep it on cal.com. If it's a fit, we send a proposal. If not, it's the wrong time. We repeat the outreach after 6 months. This is true for me because in the e-com D2C space, it changes every 6 months. People are happy to change their retainer agencies every 6 months. And then once it's closed, it goes to the delivery team. So that's out of the sales process. This is the overall funnel for my agency. These are all the tools. This is the exact tool stack that I'm using now after experimenting with a few other tools. And this is what has been working the best for me. If you're starting out, like I said, I may not suggest doing custom videos for every lead because you just want to do an outreach as much as possible. And by the way, I used 50 domains to do the outreach. You don't need to get 50 domains right now, or maybe start with 2 or 3 domains, 2 or 3 email addresses. Don't use your main email address because once you start getting into spam inboxes, if you do, then you don't want to compromise your main email address. So I'm using 50 different domains, which are all different variations of my agency name. My agency is called Maplinks. So I have domains like maplinkspro.com, maplinkshq.com, maplinksagency.com. So I got 50 variations of the domain. And that's because with one domain, I can reach out to 25 people a day. So I'm only limited by the number of domains I have. Right? If I have 10 domains, I can reach out to 250 people a day. So it just goes crazy. If you have 50 domains and you're using 40 of them actively, you're reaching out to 1,000 people a day. So that's eventually I'm reaching out to 50,000 people a month. So if you work out the numbers, even if you get a really bad 5% response rate, for cold emails, 7-8% is pretty good. But if you're getting 5% response rate, you can imagine the number of calls you'll get booked if you're reaching out to 50,000 people a month, right? And it's all automated. So 25 per domain, because then beyond that, you have the chances of Google and other email service providers to start moving you to the spam or promotions inbox. Is domain important for starting freelance? For starting, no. I think for starting, this is going to be enough, the network effect, right? So you are leveraging your network. But once you get to the scaling phase, yes. But if you can get a domain, I don't think it's a big deal. It's $10 a year. And, Google Workspace in India is just $129 a month. So good investment for sure, because you're definitely doing an outreach. If you start with one domain, you're still pretty good as a freelancer, because I run an agency. I need a hell lot of more leads than a freelancer does. So even 25 a day is pretty good. If you really want to start lean, you don't have to use this stack. You can use a simple GMass plugin inside your Google Workspace account, and then just start outreach with that.
So I have a question here, Rishabh.
Yeah.
Yes. Because like we saw, most of the people are just getting started on their freelancing journey, and you did say reach out to your connections first. because but when they start outreach, right, I think one of the bigger problems is also delivery. I mean,
Yeah.
what if you find clients but you're not able to deliver all this work? And it's a little cyclical, right? Sometimes five clients will come together with that work immediately, and sometimes you have this dry period. So how do you find a balance between all this outreach and then the value that you have to deliver to them?
Perfect. So yeah, that's a natural progression to the add value section that I have. So
Okay.
I'm gonna move to that to answer this question first. So basically, what we do is um, the first thing we do is we have this matrix, okay, and I try to have partners who I can outsource to. That's how I manage the workload. But I initially, when I start, I always try to start here, and I'll show you what this means. So basically, it's a 2x2. Just imagine having your competition and your demand. Okay, so there are going to be some things within content, within copy, that are going to be high demand and lower competition, and that's the thing that you need to figure out. So I'll give you an example from my friend who's a video editor. He realized back back in the time, back few months ago, that these YouTube shorts editing is something which was really high demand, but now it's really high competition as well. But he got in the time when it was getting high demand but low competition. While everyone else was pitching editing the long YouTube videos, he started pitching editing the short YouTube videos. And I mean, imagine there are people paying to outsource their tweets, right? So this is just an example. If you are into content writing and you can write fancy tweets, there's so much demand that you won't even imagine if you just go on Twitter and just start searching for people who are looking for someone to write tweets, ghost writers essentially who write tweets. But there's low competition. But I know that someday it's going to become really high competition as well. It's going to become like a blog post, like everyone wants to do that. But you want to start with something that's high demand and low competition. AI content writing at scale, for example, is just picking up, but we don't know where it's going to go. So it's hard for me to recommend it. But then there is things that are going to go really, really well. Once you start exploring the space, you might even find things like prompt writing, like people are paying people to write prompts. So there's all of these things that you can then cross sell and upsell. These could be low demand, but they could be pretty good for you because you already got the client in, and now you just want to upsell that. Then you have stuff which is high competition and low demand. You just, it doesn't matter, just skip that. And then there is high competition, high demand. That's where you eventually want to scale to. So I can talk from my example as well. So what we do in e-commerce is, of course, there's high competition, high demand in performance marketing. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's like the big thing. But what we do is we start with email marketing. So email marketing for e-commerce is high demand. They know that's going to be a lower CAC than performance marketing, but the competition is much lower than performance marketing. And then we upsell them SMS, WhatsApp, and all kinds of retention channels because they're all associated with email. And then we slowly scale to performance marketing. Once we are at performance marketing, we have these crazy $10,000, $15,000 retainers even. So this is sort of like the workflow. And the reason why I mentioned this is because your delivery will become easier when you're doing something in a step up fashion, right? So you don't want to go and push a client that I'm going to create 100, 1000 pieces of content for you from the first day. You want to start with this particular space that you can handle really well. And then you want to build your SOPs, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then you can scale to that high competition, high demand thing. And what happens is by the time you're scaling there, you already have enough budgets to hire more people and maybe get out of that freelancing zone and become an agency, or just scale and partner with other freelancers as well. There are different ways that you can explore, or maybe you just want to stay a freelancer but leverage AI tools, leverage technologies. You need to form some form of leverage in order to manage that. Or you might just say, I'm good. I'm going to stop my cold email outreach. This is all the clients that I need, and I'm good with this. I just want to retain them, and then I want to just make a few campaigns, keep a few cold outreach campaigns running if I lose a client, right? So overall, you'll have to find your attrition rate. You'll have to figure out, if I'm getting 4 clients, I will lose 1 client in 3 months, and you don't have to be stressed about it. It's just a very normal thing to happen. And for that client to recover from that, I need to do some sort of outreach, maybe just send 10 emails a day, right? So you could just keep it very simple at that. And for freelancers, I would recommend keeping it as simple as possible. Even as an agency, I try to keep it simple, right? So then we have some things that I would like to talk about, which will also help you manage the workload. The first thing is, when you execute personally, just follow the deep work routine, right? So if you've not read this book, highly recommended book, Deep Work, Can Newport. You have to be distraction free. You have to find your environment where you can do deep work. And when you do that, you'll get much more output in much less time, right? So that solves some of your problems of having, people have 90 minutes of effective work in a day. If you can do that early morning and then get in another 90 minutes, you've executed for 2 days in one day, right? Just imagine how much you can scale with that. So that's one book that I would recommend. The second one is focusing on that 80%. Again, another book I would recommend is the Pareto's Principle, 80-20 rule. The book is called. And then finally, one thing which, if you've already got some clients, you'll agree with, that there's a difference between working and moving information around. And a lot of times we're just moving information around where like client has said this, and then now I have to put it in the project management software. Now I have to send this email to the client. Now I have to, so it's all moving information around, but it's not actually work. When you're putting those words down, where you're creating the content, that's work, but everything else is moving information. So you want to be doing 80% of work and 20% of moving information, right? And like Supriya mentioned, once you get those big ticket size clients over time, you'll find that they need much less of moving information and more of the work done, right? But in my experience, to be very honest, it's been the opposite. When I get really small clients, they love to move information around. And maybe that's why they're small. And actually just focus on that moving information. I'm getting calls all the time. I want this report, that report. But what about the real execution work, right? So try to get 80% of your time into working versus 20% of your time into moving information. Then try to keep a single channel. This has been like one of the biggest, it's so simple, but it's the biggest hack. Either WhatsApp or email or Google Meet, from your calendar link, but just keep one channel or Slack, whatever that is. Because sometimes you just have too many channels and it's just the same moving information around just keeps taking up your whole time, right? So I could be a little bit extreme, but my clients cannot call me on WhatsApp or call or anything. They have to go through ClickUp. ClickUp is just the tool that we use for client communication and project management. If they want to book a call, it's limited to one a week, and it has to be through my cal.com link. Nowhere else. It cannot be directly on the calendar. It cannot be through email. If they email me about a call, they know I'm not going to reply. And then there's a review and reporting schedule, which we have written in the agreement that you're going to get one report a month and you're going to get one email review a week. That's all. So for some clients who are more than $10,000 a month retainer, I send them Loom videos every week, which is 5 minutes of Loom updates. It's almost the same output as a 60-minute call with these people, because half the time they're talking about the weather. So you need to really get into this focus zone where you're like, okay, I have this reporting schedule. This is what works the best. And guess what? After working with you, they'll actually realize how effective it is, right? And then they will just stick to that once they're able to see the effectiveness. So I am, like I said, full disclaimer, I am a bit extreme. You
I
may
have a
want
question.
to.
Okay, this is like an ideal situation, of course. But my question was, while we try to streamline things, at what point, like when you do this, how do you also manage the client relationship? Because this is about getting the work done, right? But
Yeah.
when it comes to a lot of high ticket client, it's a lot more about the relationship and how they feel about you. And they'll give you more leeway in terms of work that you're doing, if they have this whole relationship going with you. So how do you balance that, right? How do you uh, do the work effectively, but still have the relationship going?
Absolutely. So I think, this has worked out in my favor. And the advantage is probably that, all the retainers that I have been working with me for like 2, 3, 4 years. Like that's the size of the retainers. So it's reached a point that I've probably gone to their wedding. So once it's all done, initially, then I just have this simple project management thing. And they are completely fine with it, because the relationship building, probably has already been done in some sense in the initial phases. And when I'm growing a business in the first 6 months, I'm really into it. So like I'm really coordinating with them. I'm talking to them. whenever I'm coordinating with them on ClickUp, and if I can show my face, I'll just record a quick Loom. I love Loom, guys, by the way, because what happens is when you send text messages, you are not showing your face. And when you have meetings, it's just wasteful. So somewhere in between, I find like, Loom videos are like somewhere like the magic thing for me in between, where you can build a relationship because you're showing your face, you can show your emotions. And my clients literally like started replying to me with Loom videos. Another simple tool is voice notes, because voice notes, I don't see many people using it. Freelancers sending voice notes to me, I love them. I can hear them and I can reply to them. They're building a personal relationship. I don't even mind. Like, I respect my freelancers so much that I tell them, you know, can I call you? Like, I'll message them, can I call you 5 minutes ago? And they're like, here, it's fine. You can call me anytime. I said, no, no, I respect your time. Just send me a voice note when you're free. So what happens is we hear each other. So we build, humans love to hear and see each other. But at the same time, it's not like a long call where you're discussing something and then you don't have a recording of it, right? So if you just WhatsApp call people all the time, they don't know what you said. But if you send a voice note, they can always go back and play it. Like, I think these are small things, but they add up over time. If a freelancer is working with me who sends me Loom videos versus just an email, I would prefer the one who's sending me the videos because I can see their face as well. And one another thing that I do, Supriya, which is amazing, is that I get on like, I have these community calls. So I would invite all my clients to these community calls where we're discussing our monthly goal setting stuff. So this is part of the Growth Grad community. If anyone is interested, you guys can check it out. It's growthgrad.in, where I've built a community of people who can come on monthly calls and weekly calls, even for certain things. And they have access to my courses, they have access to my content, and we discuss about different things. So I invite all my clients to my calls. And what happens is they start seeing me as an authority when they're coming on these calls. They also see my YouTube channel. One thing that I would do is, make videos. And if a video is relevant to a particular client, I'll just email them, hey, I made this video and I think it's relevant to your business. So without knowing, they are treating me as the authority because, no matter how much if you make a YouTube video, you just sound more authoritative because now you have a YouTube video about that, right? So those are some things that that I do. And then finally, with the SOP stuff, just find all of the things that you can do repeatedly, right? So common mistake for freelancers is they'll get a project and they'll just try to do that project in a way that they can just deliver that project. But do it in a way that while you do that project, you document it so that you can repeat it for someone else, right? Think about, what am I doing in this project that I can take and make it repeatable, because that's how you get success. The reason why I can be confident with my clients that you're making 50K a month, I can get you to 100K a month, I don't doubt that, is because I've documented the exact steps that I will do to do that, right? And I've done that repeatedly with different clients. So it will also solidify your offer a lot, because you'll be like, these are the repeatable things that I can do. It could be, I'm sure, much different for content writers, but for us, like, it's just the whole responsibility of revenue comes on top of our heads when we do e-commerce performance marketing. This is the worst thing about performance marketing, that whatever happens to the business, it's all blamed on the performance marketing funnel. So yeah, then automate whatever you can. So as a freelancer, you have a limited amount of time and energy. So automate whatever you can, and then maintain all of these checklists. So we do checklist documentation, like templates. We make templates on ClickUp itself. And then we just copy the template to every new project, and we can just keep using that same template. I'm not recommending the tool in any way, but that's just what I use. I think there's a lot of tools that can achieve this. So yeah, those are some ways that we can get more done by actually with the same amount of time and people. If you were to ask me how many full-time employees I have, I think it would be like less than 3. So I have less than 3 full-time employees. With a 25K a month agency, that's pretty much a good ratio, I feel, because there's a lot of work that can be done by freelancers, by automation, by AI tools. There's a lot of stuff that can be done with partnering with different agencies, partnering with different freelancers. So I know, for example, that there are some things like if a client comes and say, do you do Bing ads or do you do TikTok ads? Those are some things we don't do ourselves. But then we have partners for all of those things. And we get a fixed commission every month from those partners. So it's like an additional revenue stream that we have.
Awesome. I think there was a very interesting thing that you mentioned when you were talking about process, and I think that's also very relevant in the context of this group as well. Because yesterday I was asking the community, what are some of the top challenges that you face when you want to deliver as a freelancer or as a content writer? And a majority of them said we get distracted easily,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And the next item on the list was we find it difficult to manage time. And I think the reason people get distracted and they're not able to manage time is because they don't have a process for stuff. They're not blocking time for that deep work that really needs to get those big chunks of stuff out. So I think what you covered today really answered those questions for them, in terms of how do we figure that out. So that was really, uh, you know, the important part of SOPs. And I don't think freelancers really consider that they need to have a process. So this is
Right.
like a great learning in place. Do you want to take up some questions, Rishabh?
Sure. Should I just pick them from the Q&A tab, or are you gonna tell me the ones that I should?
Whatever. You can just pick them up, whatever you feel relates to what we
Cool.
discussed today.
Right. Finding clients, we've covered that. Suppose I'm a freelancer, I'm a content writer. How can I generate value? Okay, so the value thing, another person said add value. We've covered that. How can I bid a project in freelancing? I don't really understand that question. How can I bid a project in freelancing?
I think they might have meant freelancer as a web portal, but maybe
Right.
that's
If it's,
not
yeah,
something.
I think it's, yeah, if it's related to like winning a project, then I think we've covered that as well on Fiverr. Okay. Yeah, I've not really used Fiverr, but I think that it should have its own algorithm to maybe rank for certain keywords on Fiverr. I know my friend does some work on Upwork, and what he has done is, and this is interesting, I should share it with you guys. What he's done is he has hired 3 VAs from Upwork from the Philippines at like $3 an hour, and they will bid on his behalf to all the projects on Upwork. It's like crazy. He hired people on Upwork to bid for him for projects on Upwork. He's just a freelancer, and he just charges $6 an hour. So they're doing, and then he just outsourced the projects back to them for $3 an hour. It's crazy guy, but this is what he.
It's like doing drop shipping on Upwork.
Exactly. So he's drop shipping freelancers. He's a crazy guy, but yeah, if you can find projects for $6, outsource it for $3, and then hire those people at $3 to bid for projects for you, then you're basically just sipping coffee the whole day. I don't know what you're doing then. But yeah, he's it's 100% ROI game. So he's making $3 an hour for not doing anything. I like that guy. So he's now he's now looking for three more people, because then you're basically limited by $3 an hour. So there's X number of hours in a day, X number of hours in a week, multiplied by 3. But if he gets 3 more people, then it'll be multiplied by 6. So his multiplier is the number of people that he can find. And also Upwork has sort of a limit on the credits, right? So if there's 3 people, 3 different profiles, and they have more credits that they can use for applications on jobs. And this is what he told me. But yeah, I personally only hire from Upwork. I think I spent like $50,000 last year on hiring from Upwork. It's crazy, but I think I would have generated like $500,000 from that. So people are really good there.
So would you, so there are of course 2 different platforms. There's Upwork and then there is also LinkedIn. Would you prefer if someone came to you via LinkedIn, pitched you like maybe even a cold pitch directly on LinkedIn, where like the clutter is less versus like a lot of people on Upwork that you might have to sift through? Which one would you prefer?
Yeah, not just I would prefer LinkedIn, but I would even pay more for someone who's coming from LinkedIn. Like my perspective on Upwork, I'm just like that person who was like, can we do it for 5? But on LinkedIn, no, I don't. I just feel like, because it's exactly what you said. Like it's less cluttered. It's more like I feel more of a professional relationship there. I would still prefer Upwork any day over Fiverr, but LinkedIn for me is just like the cream, right? So it just goes beyond all of these. And yeah, if someone is doing an outreach from LinkedIn, I would not even prefer them, but I would even pay them more. For sure.
Cool. So then what I'm saying in my community is making sense, because I'm telling them, don't go to Upwork or Fiverr, go to LinkedIn, because that's where, the right people and the right money is. So I just wanted to like
Unless you
validate
want to
that.
do freelance drop shipping, then you can go to. I think we should do a course on freelance drop shipping.
Yeah, I like the name. New concept. It falls in your start here bucket. Low competition,
Yeah,
high demand.
exactly. I don't know anyone else who's doing it. Maybe he just made it up himself.
Okay,
Someone
so I have
asked
a few. Yeah, I have a few questions in the Q&A box. So
let's
someone
take.
is asking, okay, so you've covered the scale business part also. So as a freelance content writer, and I think this is a good question because everybody keeps asking the same thing, because they are individuals, right? Now, should they build their own website to showcase their work, or are, just posting content on their Facebook, LinkedIn pages, which is, relevant to what they want to say? Is that sufficient, right? So any advice on that?
Yeah, I feel that these are, I mean, they're all alternatives to each other, but at the same time, I do feel that there is some funneling aspect to everything that you do, right? So when we look at marketing, basically we have a funnel, right? So everyone has their own funnel. I showed you my agency funnel. I talk about in my growth marketing courses, I talk about the A3R3 funnel that I use for startups and my clients. With Ecom D2C, we have a different funnel. But if you imagine the funnel, then social media would eventually feed into your website. It's not something that you do in parallel to the social media. So for example, if you're thinking just posting content on social media, great start. Start doing that, because you just need to start producing content, and you guys are already producing content. Website, of course, you'll have a little bit more friction. You'll have to do other things as well. But I feel that from social media, it's a natural progression to then drive traffic to your website and somehow get them to opt into your email list. And then from there, you can start pitching to them, start booking calls. If you're just starting out, do it in this phase-wise manner. Phase one, do your social media stuff, start putting out content. Phase two, set up a landing page. You don't need a full website, you just need a landing page. And then have an offer to book a call or free consultation or whatever you guys are selling. Phase three, you then have email list. People opt into your email list. Now you're at Supriya level. You have these people coming into your email list, then you're keeping in touch with them. That's like the master level, like the third level. But have these three phases, and I think that should be good enough. Like starting with the first, slowly progressing to the landing page, then making a full-fledged email opt-in, and then having nurturing your leads with content.
Cool. And just to add to that, in terms of phases as well, you probably need to quantify what, is phase one for you. Like, for example, I didn't have a website or anything. Like, I've never used my social media or my website, which is such a bad thing coming from a marketer. But I haven't. I've only leveraged my relationships and my network to reach to 8 lakh plus in revenues a month, right? Now that I've hit what do you say, a hurdle now that I can't scale beyond this till I do something else, which becomes, more recurring, more, something that I could do with the like automations coming in. This is when I have started to do that, right? So your phase could be up to 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs, something like that. You could extend it to 8 or 10 and then go to the phase two where you say, okay, now I need a website. I need to build this, email list, and I then need to start figuring out how do you engage these clients on a very regular basis, right? So you could decide your own phases as well.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I would even say you may not even need anything else. If you're able to build a funnel within your social media and it works for you, unless you hit a plateau and you feel, okay, now I cannot scale, should be just good with it. Also, like everyone has some things that worked for them, but you don't need to do the same things.
And like you said, essentialism, right? That sometimes I feel people get so stuck in this whole idea that I need to have this perfect website and the perfect logo and the perfect everything before I can even begin. And I think, no, you don't need anything at all. You just need to reach out to a person and say, hey, you know what? I could do this for you. Are you interested? And sometimes you may not even need to have an offer. Like when I did my book marketing retreat, like the first time I told people how to write a book, I had no course in place. I just told people I'm doing this retreat. It's in Coorg. Do you want to sign up? It's a 3-day residential thing. And after 5 people signed up, I'm like, oh, now I need a course. So, it's just like sometimes it's just a matter of getting started and then building and iterating and figuring things out as you go along.
Absolutely. On that point, I even have an interesting story. So for the I mean, don't even get me started on my website. I had a client who I sent a case study to, and he was like, "Dude, you have like 3 typos in your case study." I said, I said, look at the damn numbers, right? Who cares about the typos? I'm not a content writer. I'm doing performance. Look at the performance of the campaigns. But yeah, either way, I mean, yeah, being a perfectionist has a very high opportunity cost. So if you're trying to make everything perfect, like from your color codes to logo sizes and all that on your website, you're basically not working, right? You're not doing your real execution, which is what we discussed.
Yeah.
You're moving information around.
And a lot of people get stuck in that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's crippling, honestly, because you're just waiting for something that um and not doing anything productive, which will ultimately result in value for you and for the client, right? Okay, so one more question, which is, as an agency, how do we leverage Upwork to the fullest? I think we talked
Hmm.
about this a little bit, but maybe just like the first agency related question. So
Yeah, I have a framework in which I put in Upwork. It's called the EDE framework. I just made this up. EDE is for eliminate, delegate, and execute. So the first step is if I get a task, I try to eliminate it. If I don't have to do it, I don't do it. The second step is delegate. This is where Upwork falls in. So I just, almost just keep posting on Upwork whenever I have to delegate a task. I'll just keep posting on Upwork. As soon as I figure out that this task keeps coming to me, for some reason again and again, I would just delegate it. So in between, a lot of our clients are moving to GA4. And I was like, who cares if you have to move to GA4? It's not like the biggest thing that's going to change the game for everyone. So I just delegated all of that GA4 stuff on Upwork because see, that's not going to be the way that I make money from my clients. I still will do my stuff. I will still do e-commerce marketing. I will need to go into analytics, which is fine, but I won't need to set up GA4 for clients forever. So if something does not matter in the next 3 years, I don't really care about it much, right? So it's a long-term perspective. But all those kinds of things that are not core expertise, but we still need to get done for the client, we just use Upwork for that. So that's how I leverage Upwork. I also use it to hire VAs, though that has reduced a lot after ChatGPT. It's just like much more efficient than the VAs that I had. So so now there's more ChatGPT, less VAs. But yeah, I do have VAs to manage my content funnel and this and that. But for an agency, I think anything which is not your core service that you're not going to sell for more than 2 years, just outsource that on Upwork for cheap, and then you can build clients. You can still build clients for that.
now that you talked about ChatGPT, which is the elephant in the room, there is a question on that. That how will this AI and ChatGPT impact freelancing?
Yeah, the
Any
best part is
thoughts?
that clients don't know what they want really, to be really honest. So it's hard for clients to even prompt chat GPT. So you don't have to worry about it. Clients will still come to you.
Good. I like that answer. And especially like as a freelancer, you should be using ChatGPT at your end to create more efficiency for yourself so you can do more work faster. I'm now literally
Yeah,
churning out an article in a day just because, there's
right.
like a lot of
Yeah,
help
I mean,
with it.
they even say it's not going to replace freelancers, but freelancers who don't use chat GPT,
Yeah.
they are.
Okay, so one more question, which is basically being asked by two different people, but it's essentially the same. So, it is sort of content related, where it says that I work with some good clients, but now that I'm reaching out to more people, I face the issue of trust and testimonials. So, how do I tackle that? And to add on to it, somebody else's question is about how do I build as a newcomer, how do I build a portfolio that is impactful?
Yeah, I think it's all a volumes game. Like you need to figure out if I get 10 clients, I should be able to make like 6, 7 case studies. If you're able to make that, the next most important thing, which freelancers, I don't know why they don't do, is to actually document the case studies, right? So I know freelancers who will tell me the amazing case studies that they have on the call. They'll explain me the whole thing. I'll be like, do you have this documented somewhere? They'll be like, no, no, not really. If you would have sent me the documentation of this case study in your first email, I would have hired you without even getting on this call. So they don't document it. And I think also they don't think about creating case studies from projects. That's all we think about as an agency. Like the only thing we think about is we
Yes.
take up a client because we can make it a case study. If we cannot, we don't take up that client, right? So that's a mindset shift. But if you can think about, okay, can I turn this client into a case study? If I can, I will do it. The other advantage of this mindset is then you'll automatically do like really good work, because you'll be like, I have to showcase this as a case study.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be like a very detailed out case study, you know, sometimes just a 2-3 liner where what was their challenge, how did you help, and what was the result. Just those 3 lines are enough. And literally, when I send out my portfolio, there is one slide which just lists down 6 case studies in the specific area that this client is, you know, maybe looking for information. And my conversion rate is almost 100%, unless there's a pricing issue, which then I don't back down on. But um,
Yeah.
it works because people know that the results are there.
I mean, that's what everyone has to aim for. I mean, I've seen case studies, like single statement case studies, that are so effective. Like there is just one statement. It's not, that's how they document it. It's one statement. So
Yeah.
from this date to this date, we got this metric from this to this. That's it. Like that's what it says. Or we, that's basically it. You don't even need some fancy PDFs.
Yeah. So like when you said essentialist for yourself, right? What I align with is minimalist. I don't like, even though I'm a content writer, I don't write one extra word anywhere. Uh, because I'm like, you know what, if I can say this in one line, I'm not going to waste a paragraph on it. So I totally get this, you know, keep it minimal, keep it simple, make it easy for the client as well, right? I mean, they don't have the time to read through massive documentation. I just give them what is important. So,
Absolutely.
cool. So I know we're short on time. Any last thoughts, Rishabh, that you would want to share with us? Like,
No, I think it's been amazing. I just feel that if I had to summarize like everything, I would try to link it back to how I started. While all of these things are important, and there's so many amazing questions I can still see. There's so many channels that you can do. There are so many ways that you can do an outreach to clients. There's so many ways you can upsell, cross sell. Just experiment, right? Experiment a little bit with all of those things that you have seen today or that you have seen somewhere else. Learn for different people, experiment, and then what happens is you start finding what works for you. As soon as you get that initial data of what's working for you, just stick to that and repeat that over time. And that's what success actually looks like. It's those things that work for you repeated over long periods of time.
amazing. So folks, that was Rishabh for you. I just want to show you something before we end this webinar. And this is the community that I hope you can see my screen. This is the community that Rishabh is building. It's called Growth Grad, and there is some awesome stuff going on in here. So I've dropped the link in the chat window. Please go and take a look, sign up if you like, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of interesting learning to be had in this community as well. If there are any unanswered questions, don't worry, I will take them up later in our general Q&A calls, or even send you an email about it, like sort of compile it and do that. But thank you all for joining today, and thank you, Rishabh. It was like great talking to you and lots of learning for me as well. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
That's
Thanks,
the
Supriya.
weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.